Maybe I can clone.
You scared me.
Hi everyone, I'm GuineaDad.
I'm Angelique.
So today is GuineaDad Podcast 4. Wow, we're already on 4.
I know.
That's crazy. So today, because you're a GuineaDad and our main product is also GuineaDad Liner, I would like to think that we're the bedding experts. So we're going to talk about, guinea pig bedding today.
Guinea pigs are very delicate and they're loving creatures and also very timid. So it's kind of our responsibility as, I guess, piggy parents to treat them with the utmost respect and love so that we can live a long and happy piggy life.
And obviously the bedding is super important because we live in a house, but we go to work, we go to shops, we go outside. So whole world is our playground, right?
Yeah.
But for most guinea pigs, their whole world is their cage. Sometimes, and I would like to think that all of you guys give them enough floor time, but unless you're free roaming them, their cage is essentially their whole world. So it is very important for their world to feel comfortable, stress-free.
It's like when you go to the pet store and then I think about this sometimes with when I see the fish and they're in one little, what do you call it? One little aquarium. And it's that's all they know their whole life, and it's just kind of sad. It's kind of the same way with the guinea pigs. They're gonna be in their cage. Why not make it the most comfortable for them?
Last time I went to Petco and PetSmart, have you seen those betta fish? Last time I went to the store, they were selling betta fish in a cup.
I've seen that.
You've seen those, right?
That's messed up.
I mean, I don't know too much about betta fish, but my gut feeling is it's messed up.
Yeah.
So always kind of make an analogy with our own lives, and then putting yourself in the guinea pig shoes. I always talk to you guys saying that think like a guinea pig. If you think like a guinea pig and if you try to imagine how they feel, that's how we provide the best for guinea pigs. And while they're in the cage, bedding is extremely important, and we'll get into the details, but guinea pigs are, I emphasize this all the time, but they're very delicate creatures, and they're very sensitive in terms of they are prone to respiratory disease, and they're extremely prone to a lot of bacterial disease. They have weak spines, and their stomach needs to be constantly moving, or it can end up in a fatal way. And so there are a lot of things to take into consideration for guinea pigs. Their living condition has to be dry because when it's moist, then bacteria tends to grow much faster at a rapid rate. And it has to be clean. And they're also very, like I said before, they have really weak respiratory system. Look at guinea pig, their legs almost non-existent. They're they're on the floor.
Yeah.
And then they're on the floor, they're very close. Their nose is always facing downwards. So they're going to be essentially sniffing their bedding all their life. Another thing that you have to take into consideration is, their foot. When you touch them, you can feel that it's really soft.
Yeah.
So they should not be exposed to walking around something hard. And because they poop and pee where they eat and sleep, dirty debris could get in, and then that could also cause some infection, and then that could cause bumblefoot and some of these.
And irritation and stuff too, right?
Yeah. So.
No, it's just we wear shoes, when we walk on the cement or we go outside. Same thing with dogs. They always say it's, when it's hot or when you're going places to cover their feet. So let's go down the list of beddings and then rank them from 1 to 5. Starting with
1 being the worst.
Yeah, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. First, let's start with pine bedding.
Pine bedding, like cedar bedding, like wood, those typical wood shavings. To us, it smells good, right? It smells like a forest. It smells like fresh grass and whatnot. But like I said, those are pretty bad.
It's when you're at a perfume store and it's just nothing but perfume, and then you can't smell anything for a long time because it's so strong.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is, right?
Have you been in a perfume store before?
I've been to like Sephora, but not a perfume
You know
store.
that at perfume stores they have little pots of coffee in there, and then it's for you to like clear your senses, and then like after you smell it, then you can continue smelling other perfumes. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about, or girls know what I'm talking about, but yeah.
Oh, does it actually help? Does it actually help you smell perfumes?
I think so. I mean, maybe, I don't know. That's probably why they do it.
Yeah, so definitely avoid these. These are one of the worst beddings that you can possibly use, and they need to be avoided at all costs. Going to the second type.
No, you didn't read it.
Which one?
The pine one.
Oh, it's. Oh, I thought we were going from 1 to 5, meaning
No,
first one is
you
1.
gotta rank it.
Yeah, I will give 0 if I can, but since if it's 1 to 5, I would say 1
Okay.
to this kind of type of bedding. Anything below 5 is bad,
Oh, that's true.
or 4.5.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the second type of bedding is newspaper, straw, corncob pellet, or hay.
When you go to Peru, where they raise guinea pig as food source, they use hay, or it's just a third ground, right? But using newspaper, straw, corncob, pellets, and hay, it's not much better than that. It's essentially just a floor, and it does nothing. It doesn't absorb, it doesn't keep it dry, and then it encourages bacterial growth. For example, like hay and some pellets and straws, they're not the softest either. So that's that. And then when they pee, guinea pigs are going to walk right on it. And when it's wet, and then when things is rough, they're more prone to getting cuts and then having infection there.
And the ink on the newspaper can sometimes be toxic as well.
And if I were to rate them, I would say maybe 1.5, 2. Just a little bit better than something that actively kills the guinea pig.
So the third one on our list is Aspen shaving, and Kilndred pine is also in the same category. It's kind of like hardwood shaving.
Kilndred pine is they process the pine wood in a certain way to minimize those. Right? So obviously it's not the ideal, but it's better than just straight pine. But it has the same problem as like hay and straws though, in that it doesn't absorb as much. And it's rough. I'm sure it's softer than just putting a newspaper on the ground in a way, but still it doesn't really help with the absorption and preventing molds from growing and bacteria from growing. This one, I would kind of rate it 3. Just throwing it out there, we're a guinea pig community, right? And then we're all supposed to help each other instead of criticizing other people. I just want to tell everyone that if you guys come across someone who uses, for example, like Aspen shaving, right? Try not to like bash on them
Or like
bully them. You can always kind of mention it in a more friendly way. And also, you also have to understand that some of the rescues out there, for them it's really hard to use the best bedding for them because the guinea pigs can't go in and out, and then they don't have enough people to take care of the best possible. But you have to think about the alternatives those guinea pigs used to have. They got rescued from somewhere that was much worse, right? So these rescues are doing on their own way. They're providing something better with their limited budget. That's what best they can do, right? So we don't have to say anything negative about it in the way they're doing. However, if it's your own guinea pig, and if you're a guinea pig parent, I always would encourage you to do something better, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So next on our list is number 4, and that's paper bedding. So that's one of the most common ones.
I would say paper bedding is definitely better than wood shaving. It's like Aspen wood shavings. For the same reason, it's more absorbent. For some brands, they do pretty good job in staying dry because that's not because paper dries fast. What happens is when guinea pig pees on top part of a paper bedding, let's say, right?
Yeah.
That becomes heavy, and because guinea pigs keep moving around and get shuffled,
Oh,
heavy stuff tends to sink down.
Yeah.
That's how the paper bedding works.
And honestly, like it probably gets stuck to their feet too if it's wet.
I mean, that also depends on how much bedding you use. So if you are using paper bedding and you're kind of like, if you have already set your mind on it, which I would like to kind of discourage you from, but if that is the case, then make sure you use enough paper bedding.
Yeah.
Because some people just try to save money and just put thin layer. That's almost as bad as like Aspen bedding or anything worse than paper bedding. Make sure you have many inches so that shuffling can actually work. The biggest downside of the paper bedding is definitely the dust. Anyone who've used paper bedding before would agree with me. You open it apart and then would you sniff it?
No.
No, because there's dust there, right? Because it's not because of the, they don't go through that filtration process to make it much cleaner,
Yeah.
but because it's paper, because it gets crumbled, because it moves
When
around.
it's in there, it's like shuffling.
It shuffles, and when you take it apart, it also shuffles,
Yeah.
right? That's where the dust comes out. So it might have been dust-free when it first went through the filtration, but at the end of the day, there will be some dust, and that's kind of the downside of paper bedding, I would say. For paper bedding, I would definitely give a 4 compared to Aspen bedding.
And last but not least, fleece bedding. Depends honestly on the fleece, if you want to be like honest, because some fleece may have less quality than others. But fleece is definitely better than paper bedding.
I've started this company to create the GuineaDad liner in the hope of improving guinea pigs' lives around the world, right? And then it was a good intention, but what I realized is after we kind of help and foster the market, I've observed so many like really poor quality fleece liners appear that did not exist like 3 years ago. And I just want everyone to be careful. Instead of focusing on the negatives, I think I want to focus on what makes GuineaDad liner so good, and then why I am very confident to tell everyone that it is the best bedding that you can possibly provide to your guinea pigs. Guinea pigs love it, hands down. It's because of the comfort, softness, and we have the pocket that incorporates the natural behavior of guinea pig to stimulate their interest and also feel security. The gray fleece area is also one of the highest quality fleece there, and when it comes to softness, it's definitely at the top notch. But the second part is it transmits liquid extremely well. So we made the GuineaDad liner so that when the urine touches the fleece layer, it passes through right away and then gets pulled by the absorbent layer. We actually create every fiber of our liner. So we formulated this absorbent layer to be able to pull the liquid away from the top layer as fast as possible, and once it goes down, spread it as quick as possible.
And that's the reason for the pattern, right, on the fleece?
Right, and also the formulation of the absorbent. The absorbent layer is the part where it would fight with the bacteria, right? Because bacterial infection is extremely common for guinea pigs. In order to minimize it, you have to make sure moisture isn't there as least as possible. And also make sure the ingredient that we're using actually fights these growths. And GuineaDad liner does all that. And lastly, we have the waterproof layer at the bottom. The biggest, most obvious benefit is the convenience. Water doesn't pass through the bottom. But what's less obvious, but more important, is being able to capture the liquid within the layer that actively fights the growth of these bacteria. I think all of our priorities are the same. All of us, people who love guinea pigs, our priority is to keep your guinea pig healthy for as long as possible so they can live as long as possible.
Yeah.
It's always important for us to learn, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to watch like random videos here, read some random blogs there, but at the end of the day, not all of them are true, and some of them straight up has false information. So you need to be able to cross-check those information for the benefit of your own people. And it's always beneficial to talk to a vet who has a professional degree and that has a lot of experience with guinea pigs already. I'm not sure if you knew, but we have like the very first prototypes we made back in 2017, and we're using that as the cup drying rack in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. I put my mug on it whenever I wash it.
That's like 4 years ago, but you know, because there's like so little liquid that goes on it anyway.
Yeah.
It just like stays dry all the time. So reason why I created the liner in the first place is because tofu had bacterial conjunctivitis. If you guys don't know what that is, it's essentially bacterial infection, and then it shows in the eye, where you're going to start seeing like red stuff protruding in the eye, and then until like it almost like covers the eye. It gets really bigger. It gets bigger and bigger. Kind of lasted for like months. I think it was the third vet that I met in Chicago, and this person gave the prescription that actually helped tofu, but it didn't go away, but it didn't keep growing or get worse. So I did my own research, and then I actually met a lot of lab researchers, and then people who are familiar with guinea pigs. I've talked to a lot of the vets, and when it comes to bacterial infection, the bedding and the environment needs to be optimized. I switched from paper bedding to something that I made that was kind of already in the store.
So you were using paper before?
Right, I was using paper bedding first, and then when I was using the fleece, you know, it was like slightly improving. But I was thinking about it back then. I was using the DIY, just fleece that I bought from Joann's, and then just use the towel. But you know, towel I was thinking it could even be improved even more.
Yeah.
When I obviously didn't have an expertise to do this at the moment, but Sean was very he was already an expert in like manufacturing and sourcing. So I asked him for help. So I made it. You know, it was really good. And then actually bacterial conjunctivitis that was always visible in tofu's eyes just went away. People were like, oh, I kind of want that too. I kind of want that too. And it was like at the start it was just like just a couple people, right?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't even like mass manufacturing. Everything was kind of custom made because I just made it for my tofu and peanut. Yeah. I said, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to make it, you know, make this product and make sure I make all the good products for guinea pigs. And then make sure these animals are kind of taken care of, right? And then I told Sean, and he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I trust you, right? So surprisingly, it did well from the start. So, and then like kind of grew, and then now where we are now.
Do you remember who was the people that asked you at first if they can like try it out, you know, in the beginning? Do you know, like, do you remember who they were? No?
They were like random Instagram like accounts.
Because I wonder if they see you now and they're like, oh, like I was like one of the first people.
Actually, a lot of them don't exist on Instagram anymore. You know, if you guys are out there and if you were ones that I interacted with at the beginning, if you send me a message, we can say hi. I think it's good that, you know, I do think it changed a lot in the past 5 years. Being part of this growing community is really something that I'm kind of fond of.
Whenever you're looking for a vet, make sure you kind of do your research. Really look into vets, talk to people you know. I used to have this one vet where I grew up, really like small town, so there's only one vet there. I would have to like travel outside of town like 30-40 minutes to find like other vets. But the vet that I would go to was pretty bad. I remember I had a dog, her name was Sonic. She was very young and she started getting like really bad like dizzy spasms. I wasn't sure why, so we took her to the vet. He gave her some medicine, and then what do you call it, to like hydrate you?
IV.
Yeah, an IV. And then he was like, oh, she'll be fine. But then the next day she passed away. So I was like, she was only like 3, so she was very young. And after that, like we were like really mad, and like we didn't know what to do because, you know, he's just like, he was just a vet, so we were like really upset about it. But then I talked to another friend that told me that something similar happened to her. So I was thinking like, wow, like this is probably like a really common thing, and since he's the only vet, people just go to him just because it's convenient. But honestly now, like with my other dogs I had like later in life, I just traveled outside of town because I'd rather have like a really good vet than just, you know, settle for the vet that's close to us that really didn't know that much.
That actually reminds me of this news that I heard about Japanese nurse serial killer.
What?
So they caught this serial killer, and then she worked in a hospital as a nurse. And then there has been so many cases where the patient would come in with like minor fracture in their bone or whatever, right? And during the duration of their stay in the hospital, they would slowly die, right? And what happened was this nurse would put like bad chemical or poison and then slowly kill the patients.
For what though?
Just for fun, because they're serial killers and psychos. And then like, I'm not saying that vet was a psycho or whatever, but you know, like they're crazy people out there. And you know, just like you, I actually completely understand, because you know, when Peanut passed away, I actually wasn't ready to. And then she was like, she showed the sickness for like just a couple of days. And then I went to an emergency vet because it was a weekend, and then the vet that I usually go to see is not open, right? And when I went to the emergency vet, as soon as possible, they took Peanut away from me, right? And then they were saying that, oh, like we'll take care of her, right?
Yeah.
And then I waited like 2 hours. I thought they were doing something, or at least like we'll be taken care of and then kind of give her back, right? But what I realized was they just put Peanut in the back, like where they keep all the other animals too. So it's super loud and then super stressful, right? And then after 2 hours later, when the doctor was available, they would just take her out in the same carrier, and then like we'll just talk to each other, and then doctor will then do an examination. So I think that was like completely unnecessary. And then that actually made Peanut's condition like really like actually much worse. He said he'll be back, take Peanut away for like a couple minutes, and then he gave her another shot and then came back. He said it was to make the stomach moving. Based on just a couple questions that I asked, I knew it was a mistake. It was the only emergency that opened during that time, but like now I kind of regret. I wish I haven't gone actually, because the vet had no idea about guinea pigs, diet, behavior, whatever. He said he talked the details as if it was same as rabbit.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is, you know, similar, but you know, some of the stuff that he said, it was completely irrelevant to guinea pigs.
That must be hard too, like being a guinea pig owner. It must be really hard to find like a good vet, because not a lot of people know things about guinea pigs.
Right.
Whereas like vets, a lot of vets just see dogs and cats, you know.
Right. And then like as soon as the weekend was over on Monday, I brought Peanut to the veterinary, you know, hospital that I usually go to. And then they said they'll do some treatment, and then like later they told me, you know, Peanut already passed away. And that's actually another regret. Like I wish I was there in Peanut's last moment, right? Because I'm sure she was like you know, super scared, right? And then just me not being there, and then like she just passed away. But like with this the regular vet that I go to, I have even though she passed away there, I don't have too much complaint, because I kind of knew they tried their best already, even though they did everything in the back. When Peanut came back, they were trying to force feed her so that everything was kind of like, I can see they were trying to put something in her stomach, and then they were trying something hard, and then after Peanut passed away, they were really nice enough to like send me a letter, you know, with all the steps like writing
Aw.
and stuff like that. So I'm always kind of angry with myself. And then I was talking to Sean. I was like, maybe I shouldn't run this company. And I was like really close to actually asking Sean to just kind of take over. And then I like was thinking about like maybe just becoming a vet. It's still in my mind. Maybe that's something that I want to do in the longer term. And then once I am in that position, I feel like I might be able to know that I did everything that I could. Because I'm still not sure. Like all the people around me, everyone, including the vet friends, everyone will tell me I did the best that I could. Like who the hell builds a company for a guinea pig, right? But and then like I do believe I did everything that I could, but I don't think that's still the best that I could have done just because I don't have those professional medical knowledge. The fun story just became a really
I know, really sad story.
But in case any veterinary school admission people are listening, and if there's a way for me to do it, just let me know.
You're just gonna abandon us and
No, I won't abandon you guys, but
you're not gonna show up to work the next day. You're gonna disappear.
I had dogs before too. They were always my family pet, and then my parents would call them sons and daughters.
Yeah, same with my
And
parents.
I would call them brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like a parental relationship.
Yeah.
But
I get that.
with Peanut, you know, she was my daughter.
Yeah.
It's completely different from sister. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, that kind of left the biggest hole in my heart.
My dog just passed away in probably like a month. I think it's been a month now. Maybe it just feels like a month, but that one really hurt because I've lost pets before. I had another dog that was pretty old too. It was like his sister, but he definitely lived a very long life. He lived almost to be 18. It just really sucked because I felt like I had him since I was a child. Since I was like 8. So he's seen me, you know, graduate elementary, middle school, high school, college. He's seen me get married. Like all the big milestones he was there for, and then it's just kind of. I wish animals lived forever. Cause
Like the turtle.
like a turtle, yeah.
Turtle that we talked about in the last
But that would be
episode.
kind of sad though too, because
Why?
then they would outlive you, but then they'd be like lonely, and then have to get used to another owner.
That's true. So you want to like when you die, like kill your dog and then die together?
No.
Kind of like the ancient times when kings die. When kings die, all the servants die with them. Like it's buried alive.
No, that's too extreme. No, but oh, here's a question though, and for everybody else, if you had the chance, and if you could do this, do you think that you would clone your pet, even if it means that they might not be exactly the same, but they would like look the same? Would you do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really lost that chance with Peanut, but I would if that was available.
So you would have wanted to clone her?
Yeah.
What if she wasn't the same now?
But then DNA is the same. So I would assume that with the same DNA, personality is going to be very similar. And even though the looks might be slightly different, I don't know if they're going to be different. But wouldn't they be the same though? Because it's like kind of like identical twin, right? Same DNA. They even have the same fingerprint. So
But identical twins are different though in personality.
are they really?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
have friends that are twins.
But you know, if it's like the same Peanut that has the same personality at least, then I wouldn't mind. It's just I would be very willing actually. That would be. But I'm not sure if that's a selfish choice or not.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe we shouldn't be.
That's not being done these days though, right?
I don't know.
I've heard that some people are saving. Maybe I can clone.
You scared me. Wow.
I have hair.
You still have hair. Oh yeah, you do have hair from her.
I have her hair.
You're gonna come tomorrow. New guinea pig.
I have her hair. Oh, okay.
I'm sure that that's a thing. I'm sure like people are doing that somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But right now it costs like a lot of money. Probably.
Maybe when the technology develops to like be a little bit more commercialized.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something I could consider. Oh, I need to definitely keep the hair and then, yeah.
I don't think I kept any hair of my dog. I think I have a lot of hair, like his hair like gets stuck to my clothes, but I don't know if that counts. I don't know if you have to have like a lock of hair.
I didn't do it on purpose, but you know, the crematory service people, they kind of created that picture frame for me, and they have the hair clip. But even before that, before going to crematory, maybe I just felt instinctively that I want to keep part over. So I actually clipped a lot of hair from like near the butt area, and because that's the most hairy part.
Yeah.
And then like from like butt area, because that's like the white part. And I took some from her like the belt, where it's like a black belt, so we have the black too. And I took some brown as well, so I have all three colors that she has. So Peanut 2.0 might come out
I know. In a few years.
in a few years. And now I know that she has a especially weak respiratory system. And then maybe before that, I'll try to maybe create some product that's going to take care of all that.
Yeah.
I think we had decent amount of definitely decent amount of guinea pig care tips.
Yeah.
And we had some stories, some fun, some a little bit sad.
They weren't fun, they were kind of sad. They started out fun and then it being sad.
But I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers can kind of relate to it.
Yeah.
Since we're all like pet lovers, animal lovers. So thanks everyone for watching and listening. We will see you guys
Next week.
next week with podcast 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye everyone.
Bye.